from the vault, high atop the pastoral center of the Diocese of Camden, you're listening to Talking Catholic.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Talking Catholic. This is Marianela Nunez here with my co-host, Mike Walsh. How are you, Mike, today?
I'm very good. I'm very excited about this podcast today because it's all about schools and our Catholic schools and Discover Catholic Schools Week. And, you know, if there's one thing we don't get an opportunity, well, in my work, in your work, you get to do this all the time. It's one thing I don't get to talk about enough is Catholic schools. You, on the other hand, get to live it and breathe it as the director of enrollment for the Diocese of Camden's Office of Catholic Schools. But before we even get started on that, I just want to kind of congratulate you and all of our Catholic schools with doing a great job of reopening again this year. It's last year we learned all the lessons of COVID times, and this year there's been nary a hiccup, even though we've had certainly COVID has entered our schools from time to time, but the schools have remained in session and things are going great. And I know my own son in 8th grade is loving 8th grade this year, driving his mother and I nuts, but he's having a blast with it. So it's good. So it's a good school year. Has it been a good school year from your perspective?
Of course it's been. And, we're always kind of like humble of the work we do here because we believe that, the heavy lifting is really done at the school levels. And so we owe it all to the teachers and to the principals that are kind of like leading the boat on like making sure that our students are getting the best experience possible with the best learning available. And of course, with Christ as the center of our schools.
Yeah, it's, just recently we had the superintendent of schools on, not necessarily talking about school life, but talking about working for the church. We had Dr. Bill Watson on a couple of weeks ago. And
nice podcast.
It was perhaps the best podcast I've done out of the 250, almost 260 episodes we've recorded over the last several years, because it was himself and Kevin Hickey and Karen Fisher from our Vitality group, just talking about what it's like to work for the church and what it's like, in his case, to have worked with schools. And there really is something to be said for being embraced by a Catholic entity and that what it provides to us that maybe you wouldn't be able to provide for yourself elsewhere. I mean, your experience working for the church has been pretty fantastic, right, Marianela?
Of course. My grandmother used to kind of like always direct me in the ways of the church. And one of the things I thought she was crazy when she used to say that was like, you need to kind of like work for the church. And I never look at the church as something that, would provide like a workspace for me. I didn't see it as a whole like institution that actually had jobs for people. And it was a good lead. And when I started working for the school's office, I was like, oh, my grandmother was right. Like, it was kind of like a prophecy.
Yeah. Well, I came from, I'm the son of a mother who worked for Catholic schools for 30 years, came from public schools, but then ended up in Catholic schools and stayed there for 30 years and had opportunities to go elsewhere and always turned them down because she did not want to leave the family environment of the place she worked. She was an incredible advocate. Matter of fact, I was at Camden Catholic recently, Camden Catholic High School, and the principal there, Heather Creechy, it was their time for potential 8th graders to come and see the place. And she was giving a presentation and I was watching her and thought I had a moment of like deja vu. She reminded me so much of my mom, and my mom would give the exact same speech at Gloucester Catholic High School when she was the assistant principal there. And it was like going home again, even though I was in a completely different facility, surrounded by green as opposed to maroon.
I have totally experienced that feeling, like, where you feel like going home again, especially, coming from like Catholic schools. I feel that working for Catholic schools now reminds me a lot of, that experience of feeling, love, feeling like living your faith to the max. And it's kind of like such a blessing, to work and pray at the same time. Like we just came back from Mass with Bishop, and kind of like it's part of my work day, and that's unbelievable.
That's right. It is a unique experience to have this, and I know we're kind of going back to what the original or the podcast from a few weeks are, but I think it leads a lot into the discussion we're going to have today. We, thanks to yourself and the new marketing person for the school's office, Michael Bress, we've put together a murderer's row, to use a poorly phrased sentence, of guests to talk about Catholic schools and why they're here and what they're doing and why they've wanted to be a part of it. So Marianela, can you introduce who we have with us today?
Of course. And first, I really want to thank our guests for taking the time to be with us today, because we know in the midst of your busy schedules and like school life, you are here with us for an hour, just giving, your insights about the things we're going to be talking about today. And so I am going to introduce our guests. We have with us today Mr. Tom Iacovone from Gloucester Catholic. He's the principal at Gloucester Catholic. Welcome to our show, Tom.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I look forward to it.
Of course. And we also have with us Dr. Janice Fipp, who is the principal at St. Joe's School in Somers Point. Welcome.
Thank you, Marianela. It's very nice to be with all of you.
Nice that you're here, Jen. So we also have Patricia Naples, who is a 6th and 7th and 8th grade teacher at Assumption Regional School in Gallaway. Welcome to our show. We're so happy you're here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
All right. So today we're going to be talking a lot about Catholic schools, but we have a top. Oh, wait a minute. Mike, did you see that? I'm missing a guest. And it's here with us. You know why? It's because there's 2 mics on the screen.
Which is usually too many.
All right. So, Mike, don't take this personal. Now, I work with this guy, so I'm in trouble. Anyways, with us is Mike Bress, who is our new marketing and communications manager in the Office of Catholic Schools. He was actually the one putting this podcast together. So I thank him for kind of like coordinating all the efforts. And welcome to the show, Mike.
Thank you so much. And if you weren't right across the hall from me, I would be a little bit more angry at you. But you know what? We'll take it in stride. So thanks for having me.
That would give our listeners something to laugh about. So I think they'll take it.
I don't know if we've ever had a podcast where we had more than one mic on it. I usually do a good job of weeding all the mics out, so I'm the only mic. I'll have to be more careful next time.
Mike, how are we going to refer to the other mic? Mike 2 or
just go with Bress and Walsh. That's for the entire. The thing when you have a name like Mike is you rarely ever hear your first name, because as I often like to say, you can't throw a dead cat without hitting a mic. There are mics all over the place. So just refer to us by our last name. So Janice, you were somebody that I've been actually wanting to have on the podcast for quite some time. You have sort of a unique experience with Catholic schools in the sense that you've only worked for Catholic schools for 3 years, but you worked in public schools for a lifetime.
Lifetime.
So,
Mike, I have been at St. Joseph. This is my 5th year. Wow. It seems like it went quickly, but this is my 5th. And yes, you're right. I was always very connected to my churches. And I say churches because I moved from Linwood at one point into Northfield, had grown up in Margate, very connected to Blessed Sacrament, which is now Holy Trinity. And of course, Our Lady of Sorrows in Linwood. And then as my children grew, I was connected to the Northfield Church, which was St. Bernadette's and now is St. Gianna. I was in the choir. I was CCD teacher, chairperson of Catholic Charities, and parish council. So when I had a 44-year career as an educator as of 2014. And I decided after 25 years in my last district, where I had entered my 6th year as their school superintendent. I thought maybe I was going to retire. Well, God had a different plan.
He had some plans for you.
I retired for a minute. And then the next thing you know, I went to Atlantic Community College as a director of a grant program for a little bit, a couple of years. And then I found myself free, really free. And it was 2016 and 66 years old. And I was still connected to the church quite a bit. Father Anthony Manapella had me working over there at St. Gianna. So I decided to substitute teach. And so I knocked on the door of St. Joseph, and it really was a lovely school. The teachers were amazing and welcoming, and the students were just so much fun and just wonderful to work with. And the next year, Mary Boyle did call me when the principal moved on and asked me to sit for a little bit. So I was going to sit for a couple of months, so 5 years. But this, I believe, is where I'm supposed to be.
That is such a wonderful story.
And it's so true. I've never met an educator yet who ever really retires until they literally just my mother retired from Gloucester Catholic and kept working there off and on for 7 years, probably. My own grandfather was a superintendent of schools in Gallaway Township and had worked in schools for years. He retires, and the state brings him back to be a temporary superintendent all over the place. It's a great gig. If you're a good educator, you're going to find a job until usually they take you out of Pine Box. It's you keep around. But I'm curious, Janice, from your perspective of going from public school to Catholic schools, what did you see that was, that spoke to you and you think speaks to students as to why, they get I won't say a better education, but a different education at a Catholic school?
Well, I will say that I loved all of my experiences through my life, and I've always enjoyed wherever I've been. But there definitely is a difference in being able to discuss our faith, to have God not only present, because God was present in all my public schools too, but for us to be able to welcome him and talk about him and utilize all the gifts that he's given us, working in a Catholic school. I'll give you the example that picture 9/11. Yeah. Picture 9/11. I am on the microphone and I am telling everyone that we need a moment of silence. I could not mention a prayer or God in that experience in a public school. Here we have a teacher's mother might be ill, or a student's mother may have passed, and or a father may have passed, as one did this year, and a mother last year. And we are in our morning news day in and day out saying prayers for that soul, that mother and the family that's left behind. It is something that unites us. It is something, our faith, that daily, I think, strengthens us. Teachers walking in the hall, I'll stop. Just yesterday, one of the teachers has a heartache right now. And she just happened, I didn't know it, but she just happened to have shared it. We stood in that hall and held hands and prayed together. And then we both moved on our way. I mean, welcoming God into our school daily, minute by minute, by our students and our faculty is just heartwarming. It's wonderful.
That's so wonderful to hear. And I love, hearing stories like that. And that tends to be the thing that speaks to me as well when we're here, is how openly we can embrace our religion, because it's part of the very center or the very core of what we do, whether you're a PR guy like me or a teacher or an administrator like yourself. Now, Tom, I wanted to talk to you a little bit too, because you have sort of the opposite. You entered the family business, essentially. We mentioned earlier that my mom was an assistant principal at Gloucester Catholic. And when she first got there, it was actually your father who she worked with most closely during his time at Gloucester Catholic High School, now Gloucester Catholic Junior Senior High School. So what brought you into the family business, Tom?
Well, again, thank you for having me on. I've been around Gloucester Catholic's halls since I could barely walk. When I was born,
I know the feeling, actually, Tom.
Yeah. So when I was born, my dad was a teacher and the football coach here at Gloucester Catholic. And actually when I was in 5th or 6th grade, he came back and coached football here again at Gloucester Catholic. So I've been on the sidelines of the football games as a water boy. I've been on in the gym at all of Coach Pat Murphy's basketball camps, but I also have a little different perspective because I'm not a graduate. I am not a graduate of Gloucester Catholic. I graduated from Woodstown High School. So I was brought up as a public school kid, but I was brought up in a very strong Catholic faith-based family. And like Mike said, all of my family went to Gloucester Catholic outside of me, my brother, and my sister. All my aunts, all my uncles, all my cousins, they all came through here. And I have coached college basketball at Rowan University for the last 16 years. And when I graduated from Lebanon Valley College, I went to grad school at Rowan. And when I got through my grad program, I needed a part-time job. And Mr. Coleman, who was the principal at the time, gave me a call, a good family friend through Gloucester Catholic. And he said to me, Tom, I need a part-time phys ed teacher. And I said, well, Mr. Coleman, I'm going to be a big time college basketball coach. So I don't know if I can do that. And he said, well, just come do it for a year. I said, all right, I'll do it for a year. But after that, Mr. Coleman, no promises. I'm probably out of there after a year. And again, that was 15 years ago today. And I am now the principal of Gloucester Catholic. So, I mean, when they say Gloucester Catholic is a family, I can speak to that through and through. Again, your mother was a role model for me when I was an early teacher here. Like you said that my father was here when she started. She was here when I started. And she's still a role model to this day. She's on our board, and I still bounce ideas off her till this day. And that's just who Gloucester Catholic is. We connect, we are family, and we're there for one another. We support one another, and you truly, once you become a Ram, you truly are a Ram for life, whether that's, I apologize, whether that's as a student or whether that's as a faculty or a teacher.
Yeah, no, I still bleed maroon and gold. It's the way it is. Whether my mom went there or not, or worked there or not, I think I'd still be maroon and gold as an alumnus. And that's true. When people ask me about, because I visit all the schools and stuff like that, and Gloucester Catholic is unique in the sense that it takes, all of our Catholic schools are a family, but to Gloucester Catholic's credit, it's almost a cult-like family. And I don't mean that to sound mean, but it's unique in that Gloucester Catholic when you do that. But you really did come up through the ranks. I mean, you started out as a part-time phys ed teacher, but you've sort of held a number of different roles at Gloucester Catholic over the last 15 years. So you really know the place in and out.
Yes. I started as a phys ed teacher. I've taught numerous subjects here. My specialty is in social studies, U.S. history 1 and 2. But I do have a background when it comes to math. I started off as a business major in college, so I've taught algebra as well as algebra 2 here. I've taught sociology. I've been a assistant disciplinarian under Marianne Saunders when she was here. Over the past 3 years before this year, I was assistant principal. And then when Principal Beckett decided to take another opportunity halfway through the year. Last year, I became the interim principal and then applied for the job. And I'm very thankful and humbled that I get to represent Gloucester Catholic as principal now.
Well, you're doing a great job, Tom, and we really appreciate it. And my mom speaks highly of you. And you know my mom, she only says it if it's true. So that's the beauty of her.
Now we know where you got it from.
That's right. Yes, that's definitely from her side of the family. So Patricia, we want to talk to you a little bit as well. Now you happen to have one of the most sort of unique positions. You are a science teacher in a Catholic school, and some people don't often see the combination of science and faith going together, like that they're somehow mutually opposed disciplines. But here you are at Assumption, and you're sort of focusing on the science aspect of our world. So my first question is what was your path to coming to Assumption?
Okay. I feel like I've come full circle in my life, actually. My parents were both graduates of Catholic education. They went all the way through. When we moved from the Philadelphia area to South Jersey, I was in Catholic school. We moved when I was in 7th grade. And my mother was very sad because the area that we moved to, the only way to go to a Catholic school was if she were to drive me. Coming from the city, my mother did not drive. My father was working, so I ended up in a public school. She cried the day that I graduated from high school because I was graduating from a public school. I'm sorry, it's prayer time here. Oh my goodness.
Perfect. That's perfect.
Part of Catholic schools. Discover Catholic schools.
It's the end of our day.
If you'd like to mute for a second, that's fine, and we'll come back to you.
Yeah. Okay.
See that actually, Marianela, that has happened more times when we've done these podcasts, that particularly towards the end of the school day when prayer time kicks in. And quite frankly, I'm more than happy to take a backseat to prayer time. I do not have a problem with that at all.
That's great. Yeah, definitely. And, Mike, I think, it goes back to kind of like our reasoning for this podcast today about talking to people about Discover Catholic Schools Week. And that's coming up on November 14th to the 20th. And we want to give people a sense of what is this? Because we have, Catholic Schools Week in January, but there's now this thing called Discover Catholic Schools Week, and it's the National Catholic Education Association has come together with this idea because we thought, what about kind of like making a week about what Catholic schools are about and also kind of like promoting what we are and who we are. So as we were joking about the prayer. It's part of discovering, the Catholic schools, and this is who we are and what we are about. So going back to Patricia, now that prayer is over.
Prayer's over. The kids are going home.
As we will kind of like continue with you and your path, but also kind of like what is it that you feel that people need to discover about during this week, and even when it is not Discover Catholic Schools Week. What are Catholic schools? Okay. Yeah, so I spent my first 7 years in school myself, personally, in a Catholic school. And then when we moved, as I said, it just wasn't a possibility. So I graduated from a public high school, which devastated my mother, even though I did well. And then I went to college, and my first teaching job was at a Catholic school. I was at Holy Spirit High School. And it was kind of a fluke because I thought I was moving out of state and I had not applied for any teaching positions. And my friend called me. She was teaching at the high school, and she said, one of the biology teachers is leaving. If you want a job, come down. So I showed up. I just came in and I said, I heard you need a biology teacher. And people just looked at me like, what? And so then I was hired at Holy Spirit. And of course, being young and wanting to buy a house and different things at the time, because that was many, many years ago, the salaries at the 18.5 went through in the public school, so there was more money. So I started looking around, and I was hired at a public school where I spent 32 years. Wow. So I spent 32 years teaching in the public school. And after 32 years of loving it, loving my program, building my program,
there was an administrative change. And my husband said to me, you're not happy anymore. And I said, well, I think I'm going to have a problem. And we had a conversation and we decided that it was time for me to retire because some of the philosophies of their education, even in science, I just couldn't buy into. So it was time for me to leave. So I did. And I was home for a year, which turned out to be a blessing because my brother was very ill and I was able to help him and help his family. And then he passed. And after he passed, a friend called me and said, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm hanging out. She said her friend needed something at a doctor's office help. So I took a part-time job at a doctor's office. The people were lovely, but there was nothing creative about it. The job is the job. And once you learn it, that's it. And I was like, oh. So I got a call from a former colleague who said that Ms. Dollinger, our principal here at Assumption, needed a science teacher unexpectedly. And she wanted to know if my colleague had any recommendations. And she said, well, the person that I would hire has retired. And she said, how long? She said, well, she's only been gone for about a year. And she said, I need your number. So she called me and we had a number of conversations because I really never thought that I would teach again. I love teaching. And I wanted to leave with that feeling. But my kids were still finishing their graduate degrees and my husband is still working. And he said, why don't you try it? Because, you love teaching. So I did. And this is year number 4. So I am now back in the Catholic school. And, as Janice was saying earlier, she loved all of her positions. And I did too, even in the public school. It wasn't, till the very end when I just thought, oh no, this particular administrator we're just not going to get along. But I loved teaching and I loved being, part of schools and building a program. When I came here, it took me a little time to decompress from the way that public school had changed over the years. And when I say that, when I came into Assumption, it felt like when I first started in a public school. It is very family oriented. Everybody was very supportive. The administration is very supportive. The teachers are very supportive, very encouraging. The students, kids are kids. Wherever you are, kids are kids. They have all the same types of society pressures and issues today that are very different than when we were in school. But I think how things are handled in a more loving, guiding way is different. It's a more family-oriented approach, very supportive of the students and what they're going through. And of course, being able to rely on your faith. I did work in youth ministry in the past. I've taught CCD as well. So I've had that teenage experience with, faith and with the youth ministry work. So that has been very helpful as well. But being able to pray, being able to talk about God, even though I would sneak it in the public school.
She's not there anymore.
It's very helpful, right? I just tell you real quick, I had one student one time, her family was very Christian and it was Christmas time and they were like, can we play some Christmas music? And I said, sure. And she came in the next day and she said, I went home yesterday and told my father that you played Christmas music. I said, well, it's Christmas time. Yeah. But what's it? She goes, yeah, but you played like Christmas music, like not jingle bells. Like you actually let the songs play about Jesus. And I was like, well, why wouldn't we? Isn't that what Christmas is about? I guess I was walking a line there. I could have probably been called on it, but it was good. But it's very, I think, finding myself here at Assumption, everybody's been very encouraging, very supportive, very loving. And it's of the staff, it's of the fact, the children. I find the children here to be, on the most part, we have our difficulties as well, but they're polite. If I know I'm older now, but if I'm walking down the hallway with a box or a bag, inevitably somebody will stop and say, can I carry that for you? And that's just nice manners, nice things that are encouraged for our students to learn those things, and to practice them and to use them and to be kind and considerate of each other. And as I said, we have some issues. It's not perfect, but how if an issue arises, it is addressed is different than what I have experienced in my later years in the public schools. Science and religion are not opposite. They're very much intertwined. You can't take them apart. And it's okay for me to talk to the kids about that and how I see it fits. We talk about scientists who are saints, and there are many of them, so they're introduced to that. And,
the Vatican has its own observatory. Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah.
I said that the Vatican has its own observatory, its own science college. I mean, it's
absolutely. And it's okay to have a faith and be a scientist, and I really think that it's essential in my opinion, but that's, those are all good things that happen here. And the other thing that I like too is it's okay for a child to be a child. And in the Catholic school, we still do fun things. They all look forward to Catholic Schools Week. One of the first year I was here, the first event that happened, the principal said, "Oh, next week is St. Francis Day, and everybody's going to bring their pets, and we're going to go out in the parking lot. And we're going to bless all the pets." And I said, I was still in that public school mode, and I was like, "Oh, no. I cannot have a special schedule and miss half the afternoon, and I've got to do this lab and this and this and this." And she said, "Oh, no, calm down. It's St. Francis Day. We're going to bless the pets, and all that stuff will be there tomorrow." And I went, oh, okay. That's nice. But it's so, and everything got accomplished that I wanted to get accomplished. And we still got to bless the pets and, have some fun. So there's a lot of fun, and a lot of good things that are happening in Catholic schools. And I'm happy to be part of it.
Enrichment for the soul, it's a little bit more than just the
what
mind.
A word, Mike. I love it.
Thank you.
Reflecting there.
Feel free to steal that anytime, Marianela.
Mike, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Janice. What were you going to say?
You know what I find interesting, and Patricia and Tom, you can share if this is what you're seeing. I think that since last summer, a year ago summer, when we spent the entire summer knowing that we were planning to open our schools, to bring our teachers in, to bring our kids in, and we worked that whole summer to figure out how we were going to make it work. We didn't stop. We didn't say, can't be done. We did some really creative things across this Diocese of Camden in all these schools that got each one of us open and remained open. And what I found was that many more people entered our schools. Families wanted to be a part of it. Yes, because we were open. But then you talk about discover Catholic schools, Marianela. That's when many public school families really did discover who we are. And they found that we do have a rigorous curriculum, a curriculum that is not only based on those core curriculum state standards, but on the creation of curriculum that Dr. Bill Watson, who you mentioned, helped us create year in and year out, and Mary Boyle before him as our superintendents of schools. So the academics are there. We're inviting God in every minute of our day in all different situations. We're doing fun things. We are also meeting the needs of some children who sit across me at this table with a family at an interview, because I know you all interview before someone's accepted into your school. And that's the same as the elementary schools, Tom. So just recently, a student sat in front of me and she said, I just want to go to school where the other students are kind. And I said, Patricia, a little bit of what you just said. Our students are children of God. They are normal, everyday kids. And sometimes they make mistakes. But the difference, I said to that girl who's in middle school, I said, is that if something is brought to our attention, we're going to help that student learn what went wrong in how he or she treated someone else. So I'm not going to tell you that we're perfect, but I'm going to tell you that we do take care of each other. So are you finding people knocking on your door, Tom, that want to come to your school because you do have caring students as well as teachers?
Janice, that's a great point. I'll give you two quick stories that happened in the last week. We had a student visit, a potential ninth grader, so a kid who's in eighth grade now, just visiting from a public school. And I try, our enrollment director, Mr. Ryan Murphy, does a fabulous job. But I try to meet every single kid who comes in and then also talk to their parents for a couple minutes to see if they have any questions or anything like that. Sorry, my light went out in my classroom there. But so I was talking to the parent, and she was telling me about how her son at the time was not in school last year, that he was completely virtual, and he's having a really hard time adjusting this year in the public school. And she said exactly what you just spoke to. She said, he's just having a hard time with the other kids. The other kids are giving him a hard time, and I just want him somewhere where he feels comfortable. And I told her, I said, we have some of the same issues here from time to time too. But we address them. And I always use the line that we see God in every student who walks in here, that everyone is created in the image and likeness of God. And that's how we speak to our students. And she said to me, she goes, Mr. Iacovone, it's funny. She said, I walked in today, and in front of me were 3 high school kids that looked like they were in college. She said, and I immediately thought this is going to be intimidating to my son. She said, all 3 of those kids opened the door for my son, asked where we were from, and asked how we were doing. And she said, and just that alone speaks to the character of your students and to the character of your school. And I hear that all the time.
That's it. Tom, that's Diocese of Camden. That's Catholic schools. You're right.
Absolutely. And that's who we, that's who our kids are. Like you said, they make mistakes. Trust me, as assistant principal and being in charge of discipline over the last several years, I know they make mistakes. But we address those mistakes, and we address those mistakes with God being the center, knowing that you're going to make mistakes, but that we are going to forgive, and we are going to work to help you become a better person. I spoke with 14 public school parents the other day at our 6th grade visitation, and they asked me what separates Catholic school from public school. And I said right to them, I said, we educate the mind of every student that walks in these doors. We have rigorous curriculum. We have the AP classes. We have a partnership with Rowing College of South Jersey. I said, we educate their body. We have the athletic programs. We have phys ed. We have the extracurriculars. I said, but what's different between us and public schools is we also educate their spirit, that we are able to speak openly. We are able to pray openly, and we are able to help you through rough times in ways that you don't get that at a public school. And we're able to connect in ways that you don't get at a public school. And that truly is discovering Catholic education. And that's what we try to live by every day here.
What would you say to like a student that might be listening to you, Tom, that it's kind of like ready for high school, because you can talk from that high school perspective. What do our high schools have to offer to the youth? Like how is it for the students being there at a high school level? And what is the outcome that you expect from the students when they're ready to graduate?
Every student is different. And I think you have to acknowledge that with them. We are not trying to mold anybody into a quote unquote Gloucester Catholic student. What we try to do here, and I credit our faculty and our guidance department because, they do all the really hard work every single day. But what we try to do here is we try to help them become the best version of themselves. And we try to help them be in a position so that they can reach whatever goals they choose to reach moving forward. And again, that is different for every single person. In the end, being able to bring our faith into that discussion, I think really it helps open up their mind to what God can offer. Again, we have a lot of students that come from the public school that haven't been in church in years or maybe ever. And being able to walk down the streets of Gloucester City and being able to take them to St. Mary's Church, which if you haven't been there is a beautiful, beautiful church, historic church. And being able to just sit in mass, being able to hear Father Ramos speak, to be able to hear Monsignor Hodge speak, to be able to hear myself speak in that venue. I think it gets across to them in a different way. And I think it helps to center them in a way where they do have that moment to really reflect on what they're doing and what they want to accomplish.
What a great, just way to put it, Tom. And I think I would like to bring Mike Bress to the conversation right now in terms of what is it that we are doing as a diocese, in the week of Discover Catholic Schools to kind of promote the week, and what should parents expect? How can they reach out to our Catholic schools if they are interested in enrolling or inquiring? We're always happy and eager to kind of tour them and bring them in to our family. So tell us more about what's happening that week.
Yeah, absolutely. So for the week, we are doing just exactly what we've been talking about on this podcast, pointing out the different examples of what it means to go to Catholic school. And we're doing that mainly through social media on our Facebook page and through our Instagram page. We're going to be highlighting the differences that make Catholic school education what it is, looking at that spiritual side, but also focusing on the academics, on the teachers themselves, like Mrs. Naples, and what they bring to the table, what the extracurriculars could look like, everything. And I think we're also going to really try to make sure people understand and give them the opportunity to take to the next level. So we'll have links to our website, which allows you to look at all of the schools, pick the school that's closest to you, and start to have a conversation with that school. And I think it's a perfect time to do that. We're getting towards the holidays and the new year and thinking about next steps, right? And weirdly already thinking about next year, right? And those differences and what we might want to do. So I think this is a perfect time to do that. We also have the opportunity to have our superintendent of schools, Dr. Watson, write a great editorial in the Catholic Star Herald. And his focus was on that difference, what brings that to it. So I think, those things collectively, hopefully people will come to our Facebook page, shameless plug on my end, like our page, watch our updates, share them with others. And, we'll also tag all of our schools in those posts and make sure you visit their pages as well. Take your time to see and explore your next move. We use the tag, it's a gift of a lifetime. And it truly is. I was a Catholic school student, and we'll never forget that time, and that's partially coming full circle, as most of you have mentioned, coming back and working with Catholic schools is such an honor, and hearing all of these stories. I'll point out just quickly, Dr. Fipp, one of the greatest things on my visit to your school was when we walked into one of the classrooms on the tour and every kid stood up and said, "Good afternoon, Dr. Fipp." That flashed back for me in my time at Catholic school. And that doesn't happen in public schools. I'm the husband of an educator, and that doesn't happen there. That reverence, that respect, those things are just amazing. So what you all do every day is incredible. And it's easy to be a communications and marketing person for such wonderful schools in our area.
That's great. And as you know, our listeners, Mike is new to our office, and I would like for you to say maybe something else on the lines of discovering Catholic schools. What else have you discovered as you kind of like enter this field of promoting Catholic schools in South Jersey that you're kind of like, wow, this is incredible?
We've kind of done Mike a little bit of a disservice. We allowed everyone else to sort of talk about their background, and we didn't let Mike. Mike actually has a beautiful background. Now, he's not an educator by trade, but in reality, he is. He actually worked for another educational facility before he came to the diocese. He worked for our beloved Franklin Institute as a marketer for them, and we saw that and we're like, oh, we got to hire this guy for South Jersey Catholic Schools because he knows the game. He knows how to react, how to interact with kids and parents and stuff like that. So, Mike, it is wonderful. You've been with us now for all of not quite 3 months now, 2 months, 2.5 months, I think, at this point.
Yep, I think that's right. Yeah, 2.5 months. And yes, I had the absolute fortune of being a part of the Philadelphia area's Science Museum for Kids. And truthfully, again, talking about memories, having the opportunity to be a part of something I was as a kid, and had that opportunity. But joining, and seeing the difference, I think, Marianela, in your question of that new part of Catholic schools, but being a student of Catholic schools is some things have changed and other things have not changed, which I think is just wonderful. The tech and stuff that's new. I came over to Tom's school and also to Dr. Fipp's school, and the computer labs and the science labs, I don't remember that. And I think I said to Mike in one of our conversations, I had to remember it's been 20 plus years since I've been in Catholic school. So that's why there's better technology, but first and foremost, but also that respect, the uniforms, seeing how the classes are structured, that all took me back, and that hasn't changed, right? Those pillars that you have, I think, are consistent, and that's another thing about it. It's always consistent, right? Those things that you do every single day, kids, alumni, people can remember those things, and we have those. We call them flashbacks, right? We have those flashbacks to that, and it's been a great honor to be a part of that, and I think I make my mom the most proud as the most devout Catholic in my family that I'm working for Catholic schools, and probably one up my cousins from my grandmother as another devout Catholic and educator. Anything I could do to rise to number one on that list, I'll continue to do everything I can. But yeah, so I think that those are the big things. And I also, as a son of an educator and husband of an educator, applaud Mrs. Naples and all of you for, what you do, because there's other places you can go, but you want to be here. And I think that's another thing that counts, right? Is that the teachers, the faculty, the administration, they want to be in Catholic schools and they want to help the kids. And I think that's just something to be absolutely admired.
Michael, when you say that, is it on Wednesday, the 17th, Marianela? Is why am I it's Discover the Catholic School Educators Day. And when you talk about, or we mention Catholic schools, they wouldn't be what they are. They wouldn't have been open last year or this year if it weren't for the grace and the hope and the faith in our teachers, or our teachers have. They're skilled educators, but you talk about faith and hope within someone, and that's it's impressive who they are and how they motivate and inspire and love the children that they teach.
Yeah, it really is no small thing that our schools were open last year, and I was actually reminded of that this morning. I was meeting with a friend of mine, and she was explaining to me a conversation she had with a fellow parent whose child goes to public high school. And that child was saying how they were having difficulty with sort of the psychology of being in school, because they were essentially out of school for a year and a half. Whereas our kids, certainly when the pandemic first hit, everything was shut down. We finished the school virtually, but that last year, that full year of kids being in school really did give, I think, our Catholic school kids a leg up on just about everybody else, because they were together. They were in school. They were learning in public. And, it wasn't to say that the coronavirus didn't hit our schools. It certainly did. We had schools that, we would lose kids for a couple of weeks because of, to quarantine to make sure everyone was protected. But those schools stayed open. If they had to shift to virtual, they shifted to virtual, and they came right back again. And the kids spent all, if not most of their last year in school. And we've been able to do it again this year with nothing but positive results. And I think Marianela is absolutely right. And Dr. Fipp is absolutely right that the teachers deserve quite a bit of credit for that, particularly for the ones who had to do it in hybrid mode last year, where they were teaching both kids in the room and the kids that had to quarantine. That was truly impressive. Our
you did it, Patricia.
Incredible jugglers.
I'm like, when you say that, I just, want to mention, like, being part of all these meetings with the principals, that we have in the diocese. I think I invite the listeners to really meet those principals, because one of the things that I want to highlight about those meetings we were having as we were preparing to open during COVID times, there was never a question of whether or not we were going to do it. Like, it was always about how are we going to do it? And that's the difference, like they were not kind of like fighting against their like working rights about, oh, no, I can't put all that time. Like, I'm not paid $1 million to do that. But what they did was to ask the questions that they needed to ask so that we can open safely, and kind of like took that on and transmitted that to their teachers so that the teachers would also buy into that. And I think, it is definitely no small task that was done. And we are sort of like just so thankful that they did that as parents, as, educators, as people in, the education world. It just sets an example. And I think it is something in my own work experience that I would never forget as part of the most rewarding experiences of my professional career.
Yeah.
I think it was an amazing time, because we certainly learned a lot. And I used to laugh last year. I said, well, I'm a prime example of you can teach an old dog some new tricks. Because when we first went into lockdown, we had 2 days to get everything onto the Google Classroom and learn about Google Classroom and video and the kids. And did it work at my house, and didn't it work? And did I make videos and all those crazy things? And when they said, okay, we're going to open, but we have to have, these parameters in place, this is how we're going to do it. Nobody said, oh, no, I can't do that. Everybody's like, okay, well, how, like you said, how are we going to make this work? And that happens here with a lot of things, any activity or event that we want to do. Well, how can we make it work? And we made it work, and it was the best part was physically being in school. And the kids would say that to you in the classroom. I'd rather be here. I know I have these restrictions and we can't do everything, but it's so much better being here with you than being on that computer, and trying to do that. So, it was challenging, but everybody dug in and said, okay, what are we going to do? And how are we going to do it? And that was really awesome.
And something we're not mentioning, and, you never talk about money, but teachers in Catholic schools are not paid what a teacher in a public school is paid. So they are here for some other reason. And I believe it is just the passion within them and their desire to be that faith educator as well as the academic educator. Our teachers are, one of the big questions, you say, what's the difference with public and Catholic? The first question I got from some of my peer superintendents when I came over here was, so Janice, how's the teaching? And I said, the teaching is second to none. These teachers are, they have their certificates, they're certified, they're skilled, they're knowledgeable, they get professional development like crazy. We accept students within the Catholic schools with some special needs. So it's not that our student is a perfect academic specimen when they walk in our doors. We differentiate instruction. We know how to remediate when it's needed, and our teachers know how to enrich when it's warranted. And so the teachers in Catholic schools, excellent, absolutely excellent.
What a nice way, what a nice way to end, our podcast as we're coming to end it. And one of the things that I just want to point out is that you want to discover Catholic schools this week, you need to go to our South Jersey CatholicSchools.org to discover our schools and kind of redirect yourself to the area or region where you're from. So you can find what school is near you. And you can also call our office at 856-583-6103, and we can direct you with more information. We are, an institution that is here to educate and inspire young minds spiritually, academically, and in service to others. Thank you very much for listening, Talking Catholic today, and thank you to our amazing guests. Mike, this is it.
That was wonderful. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good day. And listeners, we'll see you again next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.